no vacancy sign right now on the Athabasca Basin. It's been that way for a while now, since the market started to heat up again, in 2023 kind of thing. So it's that's one thing to say too in the western side that Standard was built by Jon around the Davidson River project in 17. So it's the fact that we have that foothold and that package of land in the Southwest is pretty exceptional. It's probably one of the most sought after pieces of land, I'd say, without a deposit or a discovery on it yet. So that's really exciting. And then as far as adding new projects goes, yeah, we're always looking on the online database, checking on what's coming due. Obviously people have a certain amount of time to spend money on it. If they don't, then it lapses. And then up comes the auction, right? Where everyone is trying to get in there and then the fastest one gets it. So it's very, very competitive right now.
And welcome to another edition of CEO and Market Expert Interviews. I'm your host, Lucian. Most of you know me as Triangle Investor from social media. We are covering today Standard Uranium, project generator and exploration company with assets in the Athabasca Basin. I'm joined by their CEO, Mr. Jon Bey, and Sean Hillacre, VP of Exploration for the company. Gents, great to have you both today.
Thank you very much. It's great to be speaking with you today, Lucian.
Thank you very much. Jon, first question goes to you. The prospect generator model looks like a very successful model in the times when it is harder to raise capital, and we are actually in those times. I know that you all have the exploration part as well, but I want to ask you a question. Is your intention to go all in on the prospect generator model in the near future, or you will remain in the format that you are right now?
Yeah, that's a great question. And let me back up a couple years and give you some history of how we ended up down this path. We started this company back in 2018, back when uranium was completely out of favor. We started it around our flagship project, Davidson River, and we're going to get into that and talk about Sean's background and why he is so crucial to our team. But then as time went on, we'd been running exploration programs for 2, 3, 4 years, and the uranium market started to pick up. And we started, as we got into 2023, we started to see a lot more entrants coming into the space. And since we started the company, we had managed to add through staking at a very cheap price, multiple projects. So we now have 13 projects. But, we do have an in-house team of 5 geologists, but to really focus our time and effort and money, we really wanted to focus that on our flagship Davidson River, but we also wanted to advance our other projects. So we looked at, the uranium market is very small. We know all our peer companies. We're quite close and good friends with, the guys, Jordan at Sky Harbor and Corey Bielik at Canalaska. And we were looking at their project generator models, and we thought, we could do something like that, but a little different. And how we are different is, look, we wanted to get those projects advanced. We wanted to get them worked. We wanted to bring in new companies, but at the same time, we wanted our own geologists to do that work and gain the knowledge and gain the experience from those projects. So what we offered was our projects come in on like a silver platter. So what we do is we stake a project, and then we spend about 1.5 to 2 years advancing it, getting it advanced so it's drill ready. So that includes lots of geophysics and lots of boots on the ground work, getting our permits in place with the government, signing First Nations agreements, lining up all the vendors, which we can get into later, how crucial it is to have good vendors, and then offering up our exploration team to actually run the program. And we take a combination of cash and shares, and we get paid to be the operator. So for us, it allows us to advance on non-core projects and keep our geologists smart and working and advancing, understanding that project, and also getting all the vendors and the First Nations working and getting paid. So it works for everyone. And now it also gives us as the company with the project a shot on goal as well. So if one of our peer companies makes an exploration success, we still maintain upside with maintaining about 25% of that project. So to answer your question back to the beginning, yes, we plan to continue to do the project generator, but we really want to keep our Davidson River flagship project in our own hands and really advance that. And that's something we're going to be really marketing this year and talking to you about today, but also talking to the investors that we're marketing to this week in Whistler with the CEM conference and then next week at PDAC. We're really getting a lot of, advice and I guess you could say good pressure from our current shareholders to really go back to Davidson River and really advance that project. And it's going to be so exciting in 2025.
Excellent. Sean, John was at my show. You are for the first time here. Give me a 2 minute breakdown of your career and your origin story, Sean.
Yeah, sounds good. I'm a geoscientist by trade, so I've been in the uranium space. I'm a Saskatchewan guy, born and raised, so I've been in the space working in Saskatchewan in the Athabasca Basin for more than a decade now. Got my master's in conjunction with working full time. I actually came out from school and immediately got hired by NextGen. So I was a summer student there back in 2013, 2014. So I really had the privilege to work with a really excellent team of geologists and, the invaluable experience of being part of that team that made the Arrow discovery and took it all the way through to feasibility. So you look at where they are now, and I worked there from then up until 2020. So like I said, cut my teeth in the Southwest Athabasca Basin in the uranium space, and was fortunate enough to really get into the details of that deposit. Because it is quite different from a lot of the other deposits in the basin. It's a pretty unique beast down there. So being able to work with those geos and write the paper on it and get that published was pretty exceptional for me. So now bringing that experience over to the Standard Uranium team, obviously Davidson River is right across the street from NextGen.
Yeah.
So we'll get into more about that project in a bit here, but that's kind of the main thing. So when I left NextGen in 2020, I did a little bit of work with a few other companies, kind of in the interim, looking at did some rare earth element work and more uranium in further north Saskatchewan, and then got a call from the guys at Standard Uranium. So one of the guys, Garrett Ainsworth, he was the VP exploration at NextGen for a number of years when I was there. So he heard I was gone from NextGen. He was a director of Standard at the time. And basically told Jon to call me up and get me on board. So that's what they did. Called me up, and I came over in 2020, right after the go public of Standard in May, and we ran the first drill program on Davidson River. So since then, I've been working closely with Jon, learning more of the capital market side of things as well. Hence now I'm president of the company as well, which has been super invaluable for me professionally. But still keeping a tight grip on the geoscience as well, Lucian, because that's obviously my expertise and my passion. So
Yeah.
it's been a good ride with Standard so far for sure, expanding the company and trying to make that Arrow 2.0 discovery at Arrow, because that's really the company maker opportunity and value proposition that we have. And then building out the team of internal geos as well, like Jon mentioned, we've got a really exceptional group of young and hungry geos here with a plethora of different experience, working for majors, other juniors, development side of things. So we've got a really well-rounded team on the technical side, and that's what we're pushing forward. Yeah.
Excellent background, and I want to cover Davidson River first. I believe that the majority of your exploration plans will be focused on Davidson River. So, can you walk me through the exploration plans and some timelines for the work you're about to mention?
Sure. So before we get into the entire plan for the year, I'd like Sean to sort of cover off what we've just done over the past few months with exploration work in the basin and how that plays out for where we go into Davidson River right now.
Sure.
So why don't you take us through that, Sean, and then lead in with the ANT survey and how we get to the drill program this summer.
Sure.
Yeah, that's right. We've been busy. At the very end of 2024 into the beginning of this year, we're February 18th right now, and we've been on the go. So Jon mentioned on the project generator side of things, we like to stake the project, compile all the historical data, sink our teeth into what's been done. Obviously, that's how we evaluate the project, if we even want to stake it or not. So now we take that and look at it and be like, okay, what steps can we do next to get this thing essentially drill ready? So we've been pushing forward some of our non-core assets the end of last year into this year. So we did a couple geophysical surveys on our Atlantic project, on our Rocus project, which is just south of Key Lake outside of the basin, and then on our Corvo project as well, which is right by the West Bear deposit, just outside the edge of the basin as well, just to the northeast of the Gemini mineralized zone. So really excited to get that data back. We've got most of that data back already. So we're getting those all teed up for JV deals here in 2025. So really excited about the results that have come out. Those will be news released, in the next little while here as we get everything inverted and processed. So really excited to talk more about that and release that. And then the main thing that we're doing is finally getting back to Davidson. So we've been, drilled Davidson a few times since 2020 to 2022, but we haven't been back to drill since 2022. So we've been doing a lot of work in the background on that project, really making sure that the next time we come back there, we've got the best targets possible. And, we've been looking at all these new technologies and applications coming out in the basin that have been really interesting. We've seen some big players like UEC, ISO Energy, namely this ambient noise tomography, the ANT surveys, which I'm sure you're familiar with.
Yes.
So it's not a new technology, right? It's like passive seismic, which has been, proven in other commodities and other areas of the world. But the new thing is it's, being applied to uranium in the Athabasca Basin now. So really interesting to see a lot of our peer companies and some of these bigger development stage companies using this over on the east side. And we're actually going to be the first ones to use it in the southwest side. So we partnered with Fleet Space to do that survey. And the main kicker here too, Lucian, is now they're pairing it with a gravity survey as well. So the two kind of main things when we're exploring for uranium in the basin, obviously the EM conductors, those conductive corridors, those structural corridors, we target those. That's kind of the starting point, and then we layer up other surveys like gravity, resistivity, radiometrics potentially if there's something close to surface, and then where all of those kind of stack up, that makes the best targets, right? And points us where to go along several kilometers of corridor. So we have more than 70 kilometers of conductors on Davidson River. So where do we point the drill? So we've been, mainly targeting structural things, looking at, what we did at NextGen, how did we find Arrow? We're applying that same exploration thesis to Davidson. And so this ANT/gravity multi-physics, they're calling it, is hopefully going to give us the silver bullet we need to get back there and expedite discovery and hopefully get into Arrow 2.0 as soon as possible. So that's really what this thing's going to do is we're going to run that survey here as soon as the ground thaws. Like I was telling you before this, it's -50 in Saskatchewan this morning. To do the survey, we need to dig, shallow little holes for the geodes. So we need the snow to kind of melt down and the ground to thaw a bit. So the timeline on that will be, probably in May, when we can get up there and deploy this and then run the survey. It'll be about a month long of collecting data and getting the models all ready, and then we'll be ready to go back and integrate that into our drill targeting. So I'm really excited. I'm frothing at the mouth here to get back to Davidson and especially adding in the gravity side of things. So that was really what made Arrow such a beautiful target, was a big break in the conductor and a nice gravity low, which potentially represents the alteration around the uranium deposit, right? So we haven't been able to apply that to Davidson yet. So doing this new survey will allow us to do that. We'll image the subsurface, figure out exactly where the top of that basement is or the unconformity with the ANT, and then we can use that to correct for the terrain on the gravity survey as well. So hopefully we'll image alteration in the basement. That's what we're looking for there, pure basement hosted like Arrow. And I'm really excited to get back there. So, and then we'll plan to drill all summer and into the fall after that.
Yeah, it's important to emphasize with the end survey, like you said, it narrows the area, the exploration area to you
That's right.
to drill it so people can understand it. What about AI? Do you use any AI techniques in the exploration?
We have, yeah. So that's another thing that we've been applying in the background as well. So it's really nice to be next door to, two world-class deposits, being Triple R, which is now owned by Paladin, and then the Arrow deposit as well. So there's publicly available data sets over top of those deposits, namely the EM. And then we know the footprints of those deposits and where they lie along those conductive corridors. So we've partnered with another company called Gold Spot Discoveries as well. and done some really interesting work there, mainly data driven by machine learning as well, like the AI side of things, like you mentioned. So what we've done there is essentially anomaly matching. So they've trained an algorithm to go through our data set because we have the exact same data set over top of Davidson River, sorry. So they can do an apples to apples kind of anomaly comparison and train that algorithm to go through line by line, something that a human's not going to do, through our entire data set and basically pick out exactly where the EM anomalies look identical or, within certain percentage, like up to 95% the same as it does over top of Triple R, over top of Arrow, and Davidson River lit up like a Christmas tree. So that's great for us. So they can identify, kind of what the formation anomaly looks like, meaning the graphite itself, because these deposits are often, just offset from the main conductor, either in the hanging wall or footwall. And it's interesting, and Arrows on one side, Triple R's on the other side of the Patterson Lake EM conductor. So it was really cool to integrate all three of those into Davidson and pick out these areas where it looks, the same. It's validated everywhere we've drilled so far, and then a whole bunch of new areas that we haven't tested yet. So
Yeah.
like we've done a few programs, 30, 39 odd holes, I think, on Davidson, and we're just scratching the surface, right? So that will be yet again another thing that we're going to integrate into our targeting toolbox for this year, along with the ANT and the gravity, and we should be set to get going.
Sounds great. Jon, I have a question for you. As Sean mentioned, Davidson is near to Triple R and Arrow, which will be developed in the near future. Do you believe that your project can benefit from the infrastructure that will be built either directly or indirectly?
That's a great question. And the answer is 100%. I mean, that's something that we're really excited about. We've been working at Davidson River since 2018. We stay at the camp called Big Bear Camp, which we share with multiple companies, including Fission/Paladin now. And that whole infrastructure going up there, the roadways, the power lines, the airports. I mean, they're building an airport at NextGen's facility. They're also building an airport at the Big Bear camp as well. So it's the infrastructure and the amount of construction and the amount of workers and things that are going to be improved over the next number of years. The southwest corner of the Athabasca Basin, in my opinion, is going to be the most exciting place over the next 4 to 5 years as they build out the brand new mill, brand new mine for NextGen, and Paladin advances Triple R. And then we are sitting right beside them. So you've got, NextGen, $5 billion company advancing a mine in the mill. Paladin, $3 billion company advancing Triple R. Then you've got Davidson River right there, Standard Uranium, $5 million company. So Sean and I tell the story. Look, when he was at NextGen, they were a small market cap company, 50 million before they made that discovery. And they went from, 50 million to 5 billion in a matter of 10 years. For us, if we make a big discovery hit on Davidson River, that's the $5 million to $5 billion plan over the next 10 years. So it's a huge opportunity for investors to get to understand our story, what we're trying to do, the science behind what we're doing. It's not just an area play. We have all the incredible science on Davidson River, and we've got Sean Hillacre, who was part of the NextGen team, who knows exactly what we're looking and what we're trying to do there. So yeah, we're super excited. The infrastructure is going to be incredible to see built out, and it's going to help us as well.
Got it. Let's move to the Sundog project. What are you currently doing over there, and what are the next steps for that project?
That's a great question. So Sundog is the first JV project that we lined out about 2 years ago now. We've completed a whole year of work on that with our partners at Arrow Energy. So once again, Arrow Energy is led by Galen McNamara and Garrett Ainsworth, two gentlemen that worked with Sean at NextGen, and we know them quite well. Garrett was one of our board members. Galen was an advisor to us for a period. So for us to work back with Galen and Garrett and the guys from Fortune Bay at Sundog, it's a remarkable, technically strong team that knows exactly what they're doing. So I'm going to let Sean get into the details of what we did last year and what we're doing right now and where that leads to for Sundog and Uranium City. So take it away, Sean.
Sounds good. So obviously it's up by Uranium City. It's aptly named. There's uranium everywhere. We've got the past producing Gunner mine on the Sundog project. We've expanded the project. It's a really good size now. Covers, tens of kilometers of strike length as well. And it's interesting because Sundog actually does cover the edge of the Athabasca Basin. But obviously this area is known for Beaver Lodge style deposits, which are smaller, older than the basin itself, so they're not really related to that unconformity. But it's interesting to have the mix here because, you know, a lot of the previous exploration in the area was targeted on the surface showings and, purely, brittle fault hosted uranium, which is less extensive and not as high grade as the typical type of unconformity style. So we're kind of coming back here with, bringing in that Athabasca style thinking as well. And obviously an understanding of past exploration and how the Beaver Lodge model works. But we've got, grades of 12, 17, 10% right at surface. But we want to find something with larger continuity and with size, obviously, to make this work. So last year in 2024, we partnered up with Arrow. Immediately we came in because, this area there's exploration stuff on Sundog since back in the 50s. So tons of historical stuff to go through. But the main thing was upgrading our conductors and upgrading the EM so that we can really target these corridors where we want to and have a better picture of what's happening structurally. So that's what we did. We started off with a brand new V10 Plus survey at the beginning of 2024 ahead of summer drilling. So we went there and drilled a brand new area that we're calling the Wishbone/McNee target area. So it's a pretty substantial conductor that's actually folded. And so we've kind of doubled the strike length, geologically speaking. There's two really prospective limbs there. There was some historical showings of graphitic rock. So those peelites that we're often interested in, that were actually mineralized right at surface, which is fairly rare to see, especially in the graphitic ones because they're softer. They like to erode away. So we were pretty excited about that. We defined this conductor with the EM survey, and then we were like, hey, let's go drill this area. After we did some prospecting and confirmed, we had off-scale radioactivity right at surface. We found these graphitic rocks in outcrop. So we were pretty excited by what we saw. And then we have this really good EM conductor now as well. So we went up there in the summer, drilled just shy of 1,600 meters in 8 drill holes. We've released the preliminary results from that. So looking at some geology, really good looking rocks, good alteration, stacked graphitic shear zones in the basement. So really prospective looking setting for uranium. And some uranium mineralization as well. So final results for that will come out here soon. And then, so we're really excited by what we saw there. And we're actually going to be kicking off year 2. So that was kind of year 1. We were excited by what we saw. Lots more targets to test, pardon me. So Arrow was like, we're in for year 2. So they just signed on for that. And we actually just completed a gravity survey as well over top of these new areas. So we didn't have time to do that yet before we drilled last summer. So we're going to upgrade all of our follow-up targets along that trend, as well as that big main trend that continues from Fortune Bay's Merrimack project all the way down on ours to the edge of the Athabasca Basin there on Sundog. So really excited to see the final results of that, which will be released again here pretty soon once everything's inverted and modeled. So we'll have a lot more targets to go off of and look forward to a drill program again funded by Arrow and operated by us later this year. So lots happening and lots to be excited about on Sundog too.
Okay, let's move on the eastern side of the basin. Last month, you acquired 2 more projects. I forgot the name, sorry.
No worries.
On the eastern part, can you tell me more about those 2 projects? Have they seen any prior work? And what are your plans and first steps for them?
Sounds good. So those 2 projects are Umbra and Sable. Sable is kind of closer to Hurricane, just south of our Atlantic project, which is essentially right next door to Hurricane. And then Umbra is further into the basin. It's probably our deepest project. We've been focusing on the shallow drill targets, looking for economic hits here that aren't too deep. But Umbra is actually, we mentioned Canalaska earlier in the interview, but it's basically west of the West MacArthur project. So it's pretty close to the Pike Zone. There's a series of conductors over in that area. It's not along the exact same trend, but it covers a couple different trends in that area. So the target there would be very similar to the Pike Zone. Not a whole lot of work has been done there. A little bit of geophysics. So again, with the project generator side, we'd be looking to put that together with some modern surveys, really identify the drill targets, and then serve that up for JV as well. We're neighbored in that area by Cosa Resources and others as well. So it could be some really good synergies for some consolidation in that area to put it into a bigger size project. And then Sable, same goes for that. We're surrounded by some good players up there. Cameco's up in that area, obviously ISO, and some others as well. So that one we'll be looking to bring forward. That one's got less work on it. It would definitely need some new EM and some other surveying done as well before we get it ready for drilling. But yeah, that's kind of the plan. So we just stake those for the cheap, and we've got a year or two to figure out what we want to do, talk to people about potential deals before we actually need to get out there and spend money on it. But like I said, we've already moved forward Rocus and Corvo, which are two of our projects on the east side as well. So hoping to get something done on those, and then same goes with the other projects over on the east side as well.
Okay, how is the situation with staking in the eastern part and in the western part of the basin? Is there a good land available? I mean, the land that is on the known structures, known trends, known corridors. How is the situation? You are probably out there every day searching for good projects, good land. If you can give
Yeah,
me some color on that.
absolutely. Well, I mean, the easiest analogy is it's like trying to buy Taylor Swift tickets. It's honestly, there's essentially a no vacancy sign right now on the Athabasca Basin. It's been that way for a while now, since the market started to heat up again, in 2023 kind of thing. So it's that's one thing to say too in the western side that Standard was built by Jon around the Davidson River project in 17. So it's the fact that we have that foothold and that package of land in the Southwest is pretty exceptional. It's probably one of the most sought after pieces of land, I'd say, without a deposit or a discovery on it yet. So that's really exciting. And then as far as adding new projects goes, yeah, we're always looking on the online database, checking on what's coming due. Obviously people have a certain amount of time to spend money on it. If they don't, then it lapses. And then up comes the auction, right? Where everyone is trying to get in there, and then the fastest one gets it. So it's very, very competitive right now. We've been really fortunate to pick up some good pieces over the last couple of years, and beat some people out on that. So that's good. But that being said, like we're all supportive of our peers and things like that. And like Jon mentioned, like we're good friends with most of these people. So, depending on how things get split up, there's a lot of talk and room for consolidation, for doing friendly deals that can, kind of make something greater than the sum of its parts, so to speak, that could be more optionable to a new entrant into the basin, or for one person to move forward. So it's the staking environment right now is extremely competitive, and it's tough. It's really hard to pick up new land just organically through staking. That's why you see a lot of these JV deals happening. There's some of these larger companies like Denison who have a ton of really good land, and they've held it for a really long time. But obviously their focus has been, on Phoenix and developing that. So they don't have necessarily the capacity either on the technical team or just time, to spend on some of these other projects that they have that are worth spending time on. So that's why I feel like we've seen a lot of that happening recently is, some of the smaller companies that might not have the best pieces of land are looking to get into something that way, right? So it's an interesting environment right now, I think. And then with ATHA as well coming in and taking out 92 Energy and Latitude, I think the time is now for consolidation and trying to, like I said, make something greater than the sum of its parts with some of these companies. So
Yeah, agreed. And consolidation really took place in the part near the Hurricane deposit, like you said,
right.
Denison with Cosa, with Foremost, ISO
Yeah.
Energy, Pure Point. So yeah,
Yep. Yep.
It is there is a lot of consolidation going on, and like you said, probably it will continue. Okay, John, question for you. You are in the process of raising money. How much are you raising, and when do you expect to close this private placement?
Oh, great. Yeah. So we are raising 1.6 million. We've raised about 900,000 of that, and we're going to close the financing off at the end of February. So Sean and I have got this last week to sort of chase these investors who've committed to putting their funds in and get them to get their docs in and their funds wired over, and we'll close off at the end of February. And then that'll take us through all the project. We've got work going on right now, and then we'll continue to advance Davidson River, and we'll be coming back to the market in probably May, June to sort of top up on some of the spend that we're going to do on Davidson River. So that's still to be determined, but we've got a number of larger players that, like I mentioned before, strategics that want to participate with us as we advance Davidson River. I think you and I have talked before offline, Lucy, and that, look, the retail market has changed dramatically. They've evaporated from the junior exploration side. So for us, we've really been focused on finding strategic groups of investors that understand the space, understand what we are doing as a company, and taking bigger positions with us and advancing our projects. So watch for that over the next few months as you see how we announce things like that happening.
Yeah, when you mention strategics, I want to touch on the share structure you have. I saw you in your presentation that you have some familiar names in the registry
Mhm.
like Tribeca, Sachin Sprott, L2 Capital. And I will not ask how much specifically
Yeah.
do they have in the company, but can you give me a shareholder breakdown of how much is retail, how much are the big boys, how much are the insiders?
Yeah, I would say insiders are probably 10% roughly. Strategics, who are sort of the big boys, they're probably another 20%, and the rest is retail. And that's really happened over the last number of years. Like when we started Standard back in 2017, 2018, and we were private for a few years, one of my main focuses was to go introduce the company and the projects to some of those big players. So look, Mike Alkin was one of the first guys that I really struck up a relationship with back in 2018. And him and Tim Rotolo at Sachem Cove, they're good friends of ours, and they understand what we do and how we've positioned ourselves and what our plans are. And they've been participating in some of our raises as we've advanced the company as currently as last year in our last raise. So look, we really respect Mike Alkin and Tim and what they're doing, and they like our team and what we're advancing as well. Now over on the Australian side. Guy Keller from Tribeca and Marcelo Lopez from L2 Capital, they were early investors as well on the go public, and they're still good friends of ours, and we keep in touch. Marcelo's kind of gone dark for a while now. Haven't seen him in the uranium space much, but of course Guy Keller is still around, and he's very friendly, and we see him at multiple events. So yeah, it's good to have people of that stature understanding what we're doing, participating in our raises, and believing in our strategy and what we're doing at Davidson River and as a project generator as well.
Yeah, I had Guy Keller like 10 days ago in my show as well. So Guy is a really all great guys you mentioned,
Yeah.
Mike, Guy, yeah, Marcelo. Final question. Can you tell me more about the Newsflow? What can investors expect and when can investors expect in the terms of Newsflow?
Yeah, great question. So I think Sean has mentioned multiple things that are coming over the next few weeks and months here. So there's going to be news coming out of our releases from Sundog, some of the work that's been completed over the last December and January on our exploration program, getting those ready. We're in discussions with a number of companies right now to JV some of our projects. So watch for that. And then, of course, getting started on the ANT survey in May, and then drilling for Davidson River. We anticipate drilling Davidson River all through the summer into the fall. So that's going to be that's our real focus for 2025, is getting back to Davidson, taking all that new data that we've got coming in, identifying those targets, bringing in some strategics, and then going after Davidson really hard this summer. So that's what investors can really get looking forward to. And right now is a time to get positioned. Look, we all know where the spot price has gone, and junior exploration companies' market caps have sort of followed that same trajectory. And we're at a great buying opportunity right now. So we're putting people into our share registry right now to get positioned, because we anticipate, look, the future is going to take off again for uranium. It may not be in the next few months, but it's going to be coming, because we know, the market, the supply demand. We know the retail investors are walking away. So a lot of shares are being offered up at cheap prices, but we know this market, whether it's 6 months, 12 months, 2 years, it's going to be explosive down the road. So get positioned and find those companies that you think have got a shot at making a discovery.
Jon Bey, Sean Hillacre, gents, I want to thank you for coming to my show, and I wish you luck with the exploration side, the prospect generator side. I wish you luck with all.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much. Great talking to you again and look forward to seeing you in person next time.